Rena woke to the gentle hum of her apartment. The sun had just begun to rise over the city, painting the skyline with shades of gold and pink. She stretched her arms, feeling the comforting stiffness of muscles after a long night at the police station. Being the chief of police came with constant responsibility, but mornings like this reminded her that life could be calm and normal. She walked to the kitchen and prepared her cup of tea, the aroma filling the quiet space. Her thoughts were on the reports she had reviewed the night before. The city had been unusually peaceful, a rare and welcome break. She enjoyed the silence, the chance to breathe without alarms or urgent calls. Just as she settled into her chair by the window, her communicator buzzed. The screen lit up with a name she knew well, Mila, her niece. "Good morning, Rena." Mila's voice sounded tense. "I need your help. Can you send me a favor?" Rena's brow furrowed. "Good morning, Mila. What kind of favor?" she asked cautiously. "It's Karen," Mila replied, her voice hurried. "She needs 10,000 credits immediately. She says it's urgent and she doesn't want to explain too much over the call." Rena's mind raced. Karen, her twin sister, had always been reckless with money. She often made decisions without thinking about the consequences. 10,000 credits was a huge sum. Rena sipped her tea, trying to stay calm. "Mila, you know I can't just give Karen 10,000 credits without understanding why she needs it," Rena said firmly. "I can't take that risk." "What exactly does she want it for?" Mila hesitated. "She says it's important, Rena. She won't tell me the full details. Please, just help her. She trusts you." Rena shook her head slowly. "I'm sorry, Mila, I can't do that. 10,000 credits is not something I can give without reason. You know how she spends money." There was silence on the other end of the line. Rena could hear Mila sigh, heavy and disappointed. "Rena, please," Mila finally said softly. "I just don't know what else to do." "I understand," Rena replied, keeping her tone gentle but firm. "But I have to say no. I'm sure she'll find another way." The line went quiet for a moment, then Mila said, "Okay, I understand. Thank you for listening." She hung up, leaving Rena with a sense of unease. She knew Karen would not take this refusal lightly. As Rena set her communicator down, she could feel a tension growing in the back of her mind. Karen had always been persistent when she wanted something, and 10,000 credits was a lot even for someone like her. Rena hoped this would be the end of it. She tried to return to her tea in the peaceful morning, but the feeling of impending trouble lingered. A few hours later, Rena was at her desk at the police station, reviewing reports from the night shift. The office was quiet, with only the faint sound of computers humming and the occasional footsteps in the corridor. She had been reviewing patrol logs when an alert flashed on her screen, a 911 call from her own home address. Rena's heart skipped a beat. She quickly verified the details. The call had been made by Karen. The message was frantic and vague, claiming an emergency at Rena's apartment. Rena leaned back in her chair, taking a deep breath. She knew this was exactly the kind of situation she had hoped to avoid. Karen did not know that Rena was the police chief, and the call could quickly escalate if not handled carefully. She had to act decisively. "Team," Rena said, turning to the officers around her. "We have a situation at my residence. It's a potential false emergency, but I need to handle it personally. Prepare a small response unit and follow my lead. We must ensure safety while avoiding public panic." The officers nodded, understanding the seriousness of the situation. Rena changed into her uniform and gathered her equipment. Her mind was focused, calculating every possible scenario. She knew Karen well enough to predict her behavior. Karen would be emotional, loud, and demanding. Rena had to remain calm, assertive, and in control. By the time Rena and her team arrived at the apartment complex, a small crowd had gathered. Neighbors peeked through windows and doors, curious about the commotion. Rena could see Karen pacing back and forth in the lobby, talking loudly on a communicator. Her twin sister's anxiety was evident, and her gestures were exaggerated as if she were acting out a drama. Rena stepped forward calmly, her presence commanding attention. Karen noticed her and froze. For a moment she looked confused, as if sensing authority but unsure where it came from. Rena took a steady breath and spoke in a calm, firm voice. "Karen," she said clearly, "I'm here to help, but we need to calm down and talk. There is no emergency that cannot be managed peacefully." Karen's eyes widened. She didn't recognize the uniform or the voice as belonging to Rena. "Who are you? What are you doing here?" she demanded, her voice trembling with frustration and fear. "I am here to ensure your safety," Rena replied evenly, "and to make sure no one is in danger. Please step aside and we can talk." Karen hesitated, then crossed her arms, clearly resisting. "This is urgent. You don't understand. I need 10,000 credits and now," she exclaimed. Rena remained calm. She could feel the eyes of the neighbors and her team on her. She knew that any sudden move could escalate the situation. She took a step closer, keeping her voice gentle but authoritative. "Karen, I understand that you feel desperate, but calling for help under false pretenses is serious. You are not alone in this. We can work through the problem, but we must do it safely and responsibly," Rena said. Karen's shoulders slumped slightly, but her expression remained tense. "I just don't have any other option," she muttered. "I can't wait." "You always have options, Karen," Rena said softly. "You just need to choose the right path. I cannot give you 10,000 credits without knowing what it's for, but I can help you find another solution." Karen's eyes filled with tears and she looked around at the gathering crowd, embarrassed and frustrated. She did not recognize that the person talking to her was her own twin sister, the police chief. She saw only authority, order, and calmness, a stark contrast to her panic and urgency. Rena continued. "Mila called me earlier. She told me what you asked for. I cannot give you the money blindly, but I can help you make a plan. You need guidance, not just money." "Let's start there," Karen's voice cracked. "I just need help." "I can't do this alone." "You are not alone," Rena said firmly. "I will help you, but you must follow the right process. First, you must calm down. Then we will discuss what you need and find a solution that works without causing harm or panic." Karen looked at Rena, still unsure but slowly absorbing the words. Her anger began to fade, replaced by uncertainty and the first hint of trust. Rena gestured to her team, who stood quietly nearby. "Everyone, please give us some space. We will handle this." As the neighbors slowly returned to their apartments, the tension in the lobby began to ease. Karen sank onto a bench, her hands trembling slightly. She realized that this was not just another confrontation. Something about the calm authority in Rena's voice made her pause and listen. Rena sat down across from Karen, keeping her voice gentle. "Karen, I know you feel desperate, but desperation is not a reason to take reckless actions. Let's take this step by step. First, tell me what the real situation is. I will not judge and I will not abandon you. But I need honesty." Karen's eyes welled up with tears. She looked around, then finally nodded. I owe some people money. I thought I could borrow it and fix things quickly, but now it's too late." I panicked. "I didn't think clearly." Rena nodded, listening carefully. "Thank you for telling me. That is the first step toward fixing this. Panic never solves problems. Thinking and planning do. Now we will figure this out together. You must trust me, and I must trust that you will follow guidance." Karen took a shaky breath. "Okay, I will try." Rena smiled softly. "That is all I ask. We will start by making a plan step by step. You do not need to fear anyone, and you will not be left to handle this alone. But false alarms and panic will not help." For the first time that day, Karen felt a sense of relief. She did not understand everything about the person helping her, but the calmness and certainty gave her hope. Rena had turned a moment of crisis into a moment of clarity. As Rena helped Karen organize her thoughts and outline the next steps, she knew that this was only the beginning. The challenge would be teaching Karen responsibility and helping her rebuild trust. But Rena felt confident. With patience, wisdom, and guidance, even the most difficult situations could be turned into opportunities for growth. And so, the quiet morning had given way to a tense but transformative afternoon. Rena, the police chief, had faced a personal challenge with calm authority, proving that courage and intelligence were the true measures of strength. The day had passed with a strange tension lingering in Rena's apartment. Even after helping Karen calm down and organize her thoughts, Rena could not shake the feeling that the situation was far from over. She returned to the police station to complete some paperwork, but her mind remained partly at her home, replaying Karen's frantic behavior. She knew her sister's twin had a tendency to overreact in emergencies, but calling 911 without reason was a serious matter. As Rena reviewed incident reports, a sudden alert flashed across her communicator. Her heart tightened. The display showed an emergency call from her own address. She quickly tapped to listen. The call was frantic. A woman's voice, trembling and urgent, claimed there was a major crisis at Rena's apartment. She spoke of danger, confusion, and the need for immediate help. The description was vague but alarming. Rena's mind worked quickly. Karen, of course it was Karen. She had panicked again. The voice on the call was full of exaggeration, claiming urgency that did not exist. Rena could almost hear the rapid beat of Karen's heart through the communicator. Rena set the device down and called her assistant, a careful and reliable officer named Nico. Nico, prepare a small response team. We will go to my apartment, but I will handle this personally. We cannot escalate a false emergency. Keep the team discreet and maintain order. No unnecessary attention. Yes, Chief, Nico replied, recognizing the seriousness in Rena's tone. Rena quickly changed into her uniform. She secured her communicator, a badge, and her emergency kit. Every step of her preparation was precise, careful, and methodical. She could not afford to make mistakes. Karen's panic could easily draw the attention of neighbors, media drones, or other bystanders, which might complicate matters. By the time Rena and the small team arrived at her apartment complex, the sun was beginning to set, casting a warm orange glow over the city. Residents were returning from work, walking through the lobby and corridors, curious about the commotion. The security cameras in the building had already alerted some neighbors that authorities were present. Rena stepped out of her vehicle and surveyed the scene. Karen was pacing in the lobby, gesturing wildly, her voice loud as she continued to speak into her communicator. She was clearly anxious and unaware that the chief of police stood just a few meters away. Rena approached calmly, letting her presence speak first. Her posture was upright, her steps measured, and her expression serious but approachable. Karen noticed her and froze, confused by the uniform and authority that suddenly seemed to surround her. Karen? Rena called softly, keeping her voice steady. We need to talk. Karen looked around, panic still in her eyes. Who are you? What is happening? She demanded. You can't just show up here. I called for help. Something terrible is happening. Rena held her hand slightly raised in a gesture of calm. I am here to help. There is no danger that cannot be managed peacefully. Step aside so we can speak. Karen hesitated, the adrenaline still high. She was not ready to believe that the situation could be calm. I don't have time. This is urgent, she shouted. I need 10,000 credits and no one is helping me. Rena stayed calm. She had learned over the years that fear and panic could be contagious. If she reacted emotionally, the situation could spiral out of control. She needed to be the anchor, the voice of reason for both Karen and the crowd of neighbors now gathering. Karen, listen to me, Rena said, her voice firm but gentle. Calling for help when there is no real emergency is serious. I know you feel desperate, but we can manage this. You do not have to panic. We will figure out a solution, but only if you calm down first. Karen's shoulders slumped slightly, the initial fury giving way to uncertainty. She glanced at the neighbors, their expressions curious and cautious. She realized that her actions had drawn attention and might make things worse. Her panic began to mix with embarrassment. Rena motioned for her team to give space. The officers stepped back, blending into the background but remaining ready. The tension in the lobby shifted slightly, leaving a calm space between Rena and Karen. Karen, I want you to take a deep breath, Rena instructed. We are not here to punish you. We are here to help you think clearly. Tell me what the problem is, be honest. We cannot solve it if you exaggerate or panic. Karen inhaled shakily and exhaled. Her voice was small but steady as she began to explain. I owed money to some people. I thought I could fix it quickly, borrow some credits and repay them. But now it's too late. I panicked and didn't think clearly. I didn't know what else to do, so I called for help. Rena listened carefully, nodding. Her expression remained calm, but inside, she was already planning the next steps. Karen's problem was financial, not physical danger, which meant it could be solved without a violent or public confrontation. Thank you for telling me the truth, Karen, Rena said. This is the first step to fixing the situation. Panic never solves problems. Thinking clearly and planning does. We will handle this together, but you must follow guidance. Understand? Karen nodded slowly. Yes. I understand. Good, Rena said. Now let's organize our approach. First, you need to calm down completely. No more calls, no more dramatics. Second, we need to look at the facts. How much do you owe, to whom, and what is realistic to manage immediately? Karen pulled out a small notebook from her bag and began to read aloud. I owe about 10,000 credits to a group that is very strict about repayment. If I don't pay soon, there could be serious consequences. Rena made a mental note. This was why Karen had panicked. 10,000 credits was a large amount and Karen had no backup plan. But panic would not help her. We will find a legal, responsible way to handle this, Rena assured her. But you must promise to follow the steps I outline. No shortcuts, no improvisation. Trust is key. Karen nodded, a small hope beginning to shine through her fear. I promise, she said quietly. Rena stood and gestured for Karen to follow her to a quieter part of the lobby. Let's sit somewhere we can focus, she suggested. They moved to a corner away from the gathering neighbors. Rena instructed her team to maintain discreet surveillance in case the situation changed, but the emphasis was on calmness and conversation. Now, Karen, Rena began, we need to analyze the situation. First, why did you not come to a trusted person for help before calling for emergency assistance? Karen bit her lip, ashamed. I didn't want to admit I was in trouble. I thought I could fix it alone, but I panicked. I didn't know what else to do, Rena nodded. Pride can be dangerous when combined with desperation. It can make people act recklessly, but you are here now willing to listen. That is a good start. Karen's eyes welled up with tears again. She had never faced authority calmly before. Usually she argued, shouted, or cried without anyone truly guiding her. Rena's presence was different. It demanded respect, but it also offered understanding. Next, Rena continued, we need to set realistic steps. Borrowing money without a clear plan will only worsen the problem. We will explore options that do not involve panic or illegal shortcuts. Can you do that? Karen nodded eagerly. Yes, I will do anything to fix this. Rena smiled softly. Good. The first step is honesty with yourself and others. The second step is planning. You must know exactly how much you owe, the deadlines, and what resources you can use responsibly. Karen opened her notebook and read through the details aloud. Rena listened carefully, noting amounts, due dates, and any urgent issues. Her mind was calculating possible solutions. Contacting trusted financial advisors she knew could offer guidance without escalating the matter. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the lobby in warm shadows, the situation began to feel manageable. Karen's panic had subsided, replaced by careful attention to the steps Rena laid out. The neighbors, seeing the calm authority and structured conversation, returned to their routines, curiosity fading. Rena reflected on the events of the day. She had faced a personal challenge with her own family in a public space, a scenario that could have become chaotic. Yet by remaining calm, using logic, and combining empathy with authority, she had prevented a disaster. Karen, sitting quietly with her notebook, began to feel a small spark of hope. She realized that the right guidance, clear planning, and patience could turn a moment of crisis into a path toward responsibility. She did not fully understand the identity of the officer guiding her, but her trust in the voice of reason was growing. Rena, the police chief, had once again proven that leadership was not only about enforcing laws but also about teaching wisdom, patience, and human strength. She knew the night was not over, and there would be more challenges ahead. But for now she had turned fear into clarity, chaos into planning, and panic into hope. The evening ended with Karen promising to follow the steps laid out by Rena, and Rena prepared to return home, satisfied that the situation was under control. The city's lights sparkled outside the lobby windows, a reminder that calm, intelligence, and human courage could shine even in the darkest moments. The next morning, the city was bright with sunlight reflecting off the tall buildings, and Rena arrived at the station early, determined to ensure the situation with Karen was fully under control. Although the previous evening had ended with Karen promising to follow a plan, Rena knew the twin sisters' impulsive nature meant the challenge was far from over. She reviewed the situation carefully, considering every possibility and outcome. At her desk, Rena's communicator buzzed again. It was a report from the emergency team monitoring Karen's activities. The report indicated that Karen had already contacted another financial group, trying to arrange quick money, unaware that this could make her situation worse. Rena sighed. Karen had good intentions but lacked patience, and impatience often led to unnecessary complications. Rena decided she needed to speak to Karen directly, face to face, before any escalation occurred. She prepared herself for a visit, bringing along only a small, discreet team, enough for safety but not enough to intimidate Karen further. Leadership, Rena knew, required a balance between authority and empathy. Too much force could provoke panic, too little could lead to chaos. Arriving at Karen's apartment, Rena could already hear raised voices from inside. Karen was on a call, her tone urgent and anxious, pleading with the other group. The door was slightly open, and through the crack Rena could see Karen pacing, her hands gesturing wildly as she argued. Rena took a deep breath, stepped forward, and knocked firmly on the door. The voices stopped immediately. Karen turned, her eyes wide with surprise. She had not expected anyone to confront her so directly. "Karen," Rena called calmly, "we need to talk." Karen froze, clutching the communicator to her chest. Who are you?" she stammered. "What is happening? I didn't call anyone else." Rena smiled slightly, keeping her tone calm but firm. "I am here to help. Please step aside so we can speak privately." "There is no need to panic," Karen hesitated. She wanted to argue, but something in Rena's calm and confident presence made her pause. She slowly opened the door wider, allowing Rena and the team to enter. The apartment was small but neat, with signs of Karen's rushed activities scattered across the table. Papers, notebooks, and digital devices all in a chaotic jumble. Rena observed quietly, understanding the stress her sister had placed herself under. "Karen," Rena said gently, "I know you feel desperate, but your actions are making the problem worse. Calling multiple groups, panicking, and demanding quick money can lead to serious consequences." Karen looked down, ashamed but still anxious. I just don't know what else to do. I need help." "I thought I could fix everything quickly, but I can't," she admitted. Rena nodded. "I understand. That is why I am here. You do not need to face this alone. But you must follow a plan, listen carefully, and act responsibly. If you do not, the situation could become dangerous not just for you but for everyone involved." Karen's eyes filled with tears. She had never faced authority like this with such calm and understanding. Usually she was shouted at, judged, or scolded. Now she felt guided, not punished. Rena continued, "First, we need to calm down completely. No more calls until we have a clear plan. Second, we need to organize the information. How much do you owe? To whom? And what is the timeline for repayment?" Karen pulled out her notebook and began reading aloud. "I owe 10,000 credits to a group that expects repayment within a week. I don't have the money and I panicked." Rena listened carefully. "Thank you for being honest. That is the first step. Panic will not solve the problem, but thinking clearly and following steps will. Now let's discuss realistic ways to manage this. Borrowing blindly, calling multiple groups, or exaggerating emergencies will only make things worse." Karen nodded, her hands trembling slightly. "I will follow your guidance. I promise." "Good," Rena said, her voice firm but reassuring. "Now we need to review all possible options. First, we look at legal and responsible ways to borrow or earn money quickly. Second, we create a plan to repay the debt step by step. Third, we focus on preventing further panic or false alarms." Karen opened her digital device and began listing contacts she had called in her panic. Rena guided her to remove duplicates, prioritize trusted sources, and avoid risky offers. Karen listened attentively, realizing how much her frantic actions the night before had complicated things unnecessarily. "Karen," Rena said, "trust is important. You must understand that people will respond positively if you are honest, patient, and careful. False emergencies or exaggerations will destroy trust. Right now, we need to rebuild trust with everyone involved, starting with yourself." Karen looked at her twin, her eyes wide with realization. I never thought about it like that. I was so desperate I only wanted a quick solution." Rena nodded. "Desperation is natural, but acting responsibly is what makes humans strong. We solve problems with intelligence, patience, and courage, not panic." The discussion continued for several hours. Rena helped Karen list every detail of her financial obligations, organize her priorities, and consider alternative solutions. They examined realistic ways to repay debts, including small personal loans from trusted sources, selling some personal belongings responsibly, and creating a short-term work plan to earn money. Karen's initial resistance slowly turned into careful attention. She began to see that a structured approach, guided by reason and experience, could solve the problem without creating chaos or false alarms. The panic that had ruled her morning was replaced by hope, clarity, and a plan. "Remember, Karen," Rena said firmly, "this is not just about money. This is about learning to act responsibly, thinking clearly under pressure, and maintaining trust. These qualities will help you in every part of life." Karen nodded, absorbing the words. "I understand. I will follow your plan carefully." Rena's team observed quietly from the corner, ensuring safety without interrupting the conversation. They could see Karen's transformation, from frantic and fearful to focused and attentive. Rena's calm authority was working. As the day turned to evening, the mood in the apartment shifted completely. Karen had a detailed step-by-step plan to manage her debts responsibly. She had learned the importance of honesty, trust, and careful action. Rena felt a quiet satisfaction. This was not just about solving a financial problem. It was about teaching a lesson in responsibility, courage, and human intelligence. Before leaving, Rena gave Karen a final piece of guidance. "Stick to the plan, follow every step carefully, and do not panic. Trust yourself, trust the process, and remember that courage is not absence of fear, but acting wisely despite fear." Karen smiled faintly, a mixture of relief and determination in her expression. "Thank you, Rena. I didn't know anyone could help me like this." Rena placed a hand gently on Karen's shoulder. "That is what family is for. That is what leadership is for. We guide, we teach, and we protect, even when the challenges seem overwhelming." As Rena left the apartment, she felt a deep sense of accomplishment. She had confronted a difficult personal challenge with her sister, managed public safety, and guided someone toward responsibility and courage. The city outside was alive with lights and movement, unaware of the quiet but important transformation that had occurred within this small apartment. For Karen, the day had been a turning point. She realized that intelligence, patience, and careful action could turn even the most desperate situation into an opportunity to grow. The lessons Rena taught her would remain, shaping her decisions, her behavior, and her sense of responsibility. And for Rena, the chief of police, this was a reminder that true leadership extended beyond enforcing laws. It was about empathy, guidance, and helping others see their own strength. She returned home ready to face whatever the city could throw at her next, confident that the power of calm, intelligence, and human courage would prevail. The sun set completely, casting the city in the gentle glow of evening lights. Inside the apartment, Karen reviewed the plan once more, feeling a quiet determination she had never felt before. She knew that mistakes might happen, but with guidance, patience, and courage, she could face the future responsibly. The night ended with a sense of calm resolution. The crisis had been managed, but more importantly, a lesson had been learned. Human intelligence, patience, and courage could solve problems that panic and fear could never overcome. Rena's role as a leader, both in the city and within her family, had made a difference. She had turned a moment of chaos into a moment of growth, proving that true strength came not from force but from wisdom, calm, and careful action. The morning light spilled gently into Rena's apartment, reflecting off the smooth floors and glass surfaces. The city outside was waking up, the streets humming with the daily rhythm of life. Rena sat at her kitchen table reviewing her schedule and reports. Even though the immediate crisis with Karen seemed under control, she knew that the situation was not fully resolved. Karen had calmed down after the previous day's discussion, but her impulsive nature meant that the temptation to act hastily could return at any moment. Rena needed to take the next step carefully. It was time for Karen to understand the full weight of her actions and, most importantly, to see the consequences and responsibility tied to them. Rena made her way to Karen's apartment, accompanied by a single officer, Nico, who had been briefed on maintaining discretion. As they approached, Rena could hear Karen inside talking in a low voice to herself, rehearsing what she might do next. She was clearly nervous but more focused than the previous day. Rena knocked lightly on the door. "Karen, it's time we talk again," she called softly. The door opened and Karen stepped back, surprised. "Rena, hello," she said cautiously. I'm trying to do everything you said." Rena smiled faintly. "I can see that. That is why we need to have a clear conversation. Sit down, please." Karen nodded and took a seat at the table. "Karen," Rena began, her tone calm but firm. You need to understand something important. What you did yesterday, calling emergency services, panicking, seeking money without planning, could have serious consequences. I need to make sure you understand that fully before we move forward. Karen's eyes widened. Consequences? But I thought you were helping me. I am helping you, Rena said. But helping also means guiding you to act responsibly. Part of that is understanding the results of poor decisions. You cannot avoid consequences by panicking or relying on others without reason. Actions have results, and responsibility is part of life. Karen looked down, fidgeting with her hands. She had never been confronted with her actions in such a serious and calm way. Usually people simply scolded or argued with her. Rena's presence demanded attention and reflection. Rena continued, "Yesterday I helped you organize a plan. Today I want to take the next step. We are going to look at your choices carefully, understand their impact, and see how we can move forward in a responsible way. Do you understand?" Karen nodded, her voice small but sincere. "Yes, I understand." "Good," Rena said. "Now first we will review your debt situation again. We need a clear picture. Who is owed, how much, and when. Then we will discuss realistic ways to repay responsibly. We will not use panic or false claims. Finally, I will explain something important about trust, responsibility, and the role of authority." Karen's heart beat faster. She felt nervous but also curious. She had learned from the previous day that calm thinking could solve problems, but she did not yet realize the full extent of Rena's wisdom. Rena listened carefully as Karen explained all the details once more. She corrected small errors in accounting, suggested prioritizing debts by urgency, and encouraged Karen to seek advice from trustworthy contacts only. Karen followed each instruction diligently, realizing how chaotic her earlier attempts had been. After organizing the details, Rena paused. "Karen, you have done well to follow the steps. But there is one more thing you need to know." She leaned slightly forward, her voice softening. "Do you want to hear it?" Karen nodded eagerly. "Yes, please tell me." Rena took a deep breath. "I am the chief of police in this city." Karen froze, her eyes widening in shock. "What?" she whispered. "Yes," Rena said calmly. "All the guidance, all the steps I have given you were not just from a family member. They were also from someone who is trained to maintain order, ensure safety, and solve problems logically. That is why I asked for honesty, why I emphasized calmness, and why I insisted on planning." Karen's mind raced. She had been speaking and acting in front of the chief of police without realizing it. She felt embarrassed but also amazed at how her twin had handled the situation so effectively. "Rena, you are the chief?" Karen stammered. I didn't know. I was panicking. I called 911. I could have caused a problem." Rena smiled gently. "Karen, the panic and the mistake are in the past. What matters now is that you understand, learn, and take responsibility. You have done well to listen, plan, and follow guidance. That is what counts." Karen lowered her gaze, feeling both ashamed and relieved. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I was just desperate." "I know," Rena said. "Desperation is natural. What is important is how we act in response. Humans are capable of incredible intelligence, courage, and problem-solving. The mistakes you made are not failures, they are lessons. This is how people grow stronger, more responsible, and wiser." Karen's shoulders relaxed slightly. She had never thought about mistakes in that way. Usually, mistakes brought shame or punishment. Now she could see them as opportunities to learn. Rena continued, "Being human means facing challenges, making choices, and accepting responsibility. Acting recklessly only prolongs problems. Acting thoughtfully, even in difficult circumstances, leads to solutions. That is the strength of humans, Karen. The ability to think, adapt, and act wisely under pressure." Karen looked up, her eyes shining with understanding. I think I understand. I need to follow the plan, not panic, and trust the process." "Exactly," Rena said. "You are capable of solving problems when you use intelligence, patience, and courage. That is what makes humans strong." Karen smiled faintly. I never realized that before. I always thought I had to act fast, even if it caused trouble. I see now that calm thinking is stronger than panic." Rena nodded. "Yes? And you have already started to act responsibly by following the steps we discussed. That is progress. Every day, you can continue to build on this. Remember, trust, honesty, and patience are tools as powerful as any resource. Using them wisely changes outcomes." Karen's mind was full of thoughts. She realized that this experience was more than just about money. It was about learning how to face life responsibly. She had always seen her twin as strong and capable, but now she truly understood the wisdom and leadership Rena embodied. Rena placed a hand on Karen's shoulder. "You are not alone, Karen. I will guide you, but you must also trust yourself. The courage to act responsibly is within you. Using it is the key to overcoming challenges." Karen took a deep breath, feeling a mix of relief, determination, and admiration. I will try. I will follow the plan, and I will think before I act." "Thank you, Rena. I understand now." Rena smiled warmly. "That is all I ask. Learning from challenges is how humans grow stronger. Today, you have taken the first step toward becoming more responsible, more capable, and more resilient. That is what matters." They spent the rest of the morning reviewing the plan one more time. Karen committed each step to memory, understanding that patience, honesty, and intelligence were more important than quick solutions. Rena guided her carefully, ensuring that Karen felt confident and prepared to act responsibly. Before leaving, Rena gave one final piece of guidance. "Remember, Karen, humans are strongest when they combine courage, intelligence, and empathy. These qualities are what allow us to solve problems, guide others, and face challenges with confidence. You have the ability to use these qualities now. Do not forget them." Karen nodded, feeling a quiet sense of empowerment she had never experienced before. She realized that this was not just about money or panic. It was about becoming a stronger, wiser person. As Rena walked back to her vehicle, she felt a sense of calm satisfaction. The confrontation had not only resolved a potential crisis, but had also taught an important lesson about human intelligence, responsibility, and courage. The city outside continued its busy rhythm, unaware that a small but meaningful transformation had occurred within one apartment. Karen remained at the table, reviewing the plan one last time. She felt determined, ready to face the challenges ahead with a clear mind, steady heart, and responsible actions. The lessons Rena had taught her would stay with her forever, shaping her choices and actions in ways she had never imagined. That day marked a turning point. The crisis had evolved into a moment of learning and growth. Rena's wisdom, calm authority, and understanding had transformed fear into clarity, panic into planning, and desperation into determination. As the sun set over the city, casting a golden glow on the buildings, both sisters reflected on the power of patience, intelligence, and courage. One had faced challenges with authority and wisdom, the other had embraced guidance and learned to act responsibly. Together they had proven that humans could overcome chaos, fear, and mistakes by thinking clearly, acting responsibly, and trusting in their own abilities. The night ended with a sense of quiet accomplishment. Rena returned home, confident that Karen's future actions would be thoughtful and responsible. Karen, meanwhile, reviewed her commitments, feeling empowered by the lessons learned. The experience had reinforced the HFY truth. Human intelligence, courage, and patience were capable of transforming even the most difficult situations into opportunities for growth and strength. The morning sun poured through the windows of Karen's apartment, illuminating the small space with a warm glow. For the first time in days, Karen felt calm. She had spent the previous night reviewing the plan Rena had helped her create. Every step was carefully written down, organized and realistic. The sense of panic that had ruled her actions for so long had faded, replaced by focus and determination. Karen sipped her morning tea slowly, thinking about everything she had learned. She had realized that desperation could lead to mistakes, but careful thinking, honesty, and patience could transform even the most difficult situation into an opportunity. She remembered Rena's words. Human intelligence, courage, and responsibility were the tools that could overcome any challenge. A gentle knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Karen opened it to find Rena standing there smiling warmly. She was carrying a small notebook and a folder, ready to continue guiding her sister. "Good morning, Karen," Rena said softly. "Are you ready to move forward?" Karen nodded. "Yes, Rena, I am ready. I've reviewed everything. I think I understand now how to handle this responsibly." Rena entered and set the materials on the table. "Good. Today we will put your plan into action. This is the moment where knowledge turns into real results. You will practice patience, responsibility, and careful decision-making. Are you prepared for that?" Karen took a deep breath. I am. The first step was contacting the financial group she owed money to, but this time with honesty and clarity. Rena guided her on what to say, how to communicate the plan, and how to set realistic expectations. Karen followed the guidance meticulously, her confidence growing with each conversation. By late morning, the first agreements were made. Some groups agreed to revised repayment schedules, understanding her commitment to a clear plan. Others required additional information, which Karen provided calmly and accurately. She was no longer panicking, no longer calling in desperation. Instead, she was acting with intelligence and responsibility. Rena observed quietly, proud of the transformation. "See, Karen," she said, "problems become manageable when approached logically and patiently. Panic only clouds judgment, but clarity creates solutions." Karen smiled faintly. "I can feel the difference. I am still nervous, but I know what I need to do. I understand that acting responsibly works better than rushing or panicking." The day progressed with steady focus. Karen completed small tasks from her plan, organizing personal finances, creating a budget, and preparing for repayment. Rena offered guidance when needed, but for the first time, Karen was making decisions on her own, applying what she had learned. By afternoon, the emotional weight that had burdened Karen for days began to lift. She could see the results of her responsible actions taking shape. The debts were being managed, agreements were in place, and she had regained a sense of control over her life. "Karen," Rena said gently, "this is more than money. It is about building trust, responsibility, and confidence. Every choice you make carefully and honestly strengthens these qualities. Do you see that?" Karen nodded, her eyes shining with realization. "Yes, Rena. I never thought that making decisions carefully could change everything. I feel stronger now," Rena smiled. "That is the human strength I wanted you to experience. Intelligence, patience, and courage are the tools that make people capable of handling challenges. You have started to use them today." As the sun began to set, Karen's progress was clear. She had completed the tasks she could manage for the day, and her mind was calm and focused. She reflected on the journey, from panic and desperation to clarity and responsibility. The lessons Rena had taught her were no longer abstract ideas. They were skills she could apply every day. Rena stood and stretched, ready to leave, but wanting to leave Karen with one final piece of guidance. "Remember, Karen, life will continue to present challenges. Some will be small, some will be large. What matters is how you approach them. Use patience, intelligence, and courage. Plan your actions, think clearly, and act responsibly. That is how humans achieve success and strength." Karen rose and nodded. "I understand, Rena, thank you. I will remember," Rena smiled warmly. "I know you will. You have already taken great steps today. Keep building on this foundation, and you will find that challenges become opportunities. You are capable of more than you realize." As Rena left, Karen felt a deep sense of gratitude and determination. She knew she had made mistakes in the past, but she also knew that she had the ability to grow, learn, and act wisely. The panic that had once controlled her actions was gone, replaced by a calm confidence and clarity of thought. The evening brought quiet reflection. Karen sat by the window looking out at the city lights. She thought about her sister, Rena, and the lessons she had learned. That human intelligence and patience were as powerful as any resource. That courage was acting responsibly even when afraid, and that true strength came from understanding and using one's abilities wisely. Karen felt a sense of pride. She had faced a difficult situation, followed guidance, and transformed it into an opportunity to grow. She understood now that mistakes were not failures. They were lessons waiting to be learned. Meanwhile, Rena returned home, reflecting on the events of the past few days. She knew that leadership was not just about enforcing rules or maintaining order. It was about empathy, guidance, and helping others see their own potential. By teaching Karen responsibility and patience, she had strengthened not only her sister but also herself as a leader. Rena sat quietly, enjoying the calm after a challenging period. She thought about the city, the people, and the countless small moments where intelligence, courage, and patience made a difference. She realized that the HFY principles she valued, wisdom, empathy, and responsibility, were what truly made humans strong. Back in her apartment, Karen continued to work on her plan, carefully reviewing each step and making adjustments as needed. She felt empowered by the knowledge that she could face challenges logically and responsibly. Each action she took reinforced the lessons she had learned, building confidence and resilience. Over the next few days, Karen applied the plan fully. She communicated honestly with all parties, completed her repayments responsibly, and avoided any panic-driven actions. Each success reinforced her trust in the process, and her confidence grew. She began to see that responsibility, intelligence, and patience could transform not only her financial situation but every aspect of her life. Rena checked in periodically, offering guidance and support when needed, but mostly observing Karen's progress with quiet satisfaction. She knew that her sister had internalized the lessons. Karen was acting responsibly on her own, demonstrating growth, maturity, and understanding. One evening, as the city lights twinkled across the skyline, Karen spoke to Rena with a calm confidence she had never felt before. "Rena, I think I understand now. I see that thinking carefully, planning, and acting responsibly can solve problems. I feel ready to face anything." Rena smiled, proud and serene. "That is exactly what I wanted you to realize. Human intelligence, patience, and courage are powerful tools. When used wisely, they can overcome fear, chaos, and mistakes. You have shown that today." Karen felt a warm sense of accomplishment. She had transformed a moment of panic into a journey of growth. She realized that challenges were opportunities, mistakes were lessons, and human strength lay in intelligence, courage, and responsible action. The city outside continued its busy rhythm, unaware of the small but meaningful transformation that had occurred within one apartment. For Karen, the experience had changed everything. For Rena, it reinforced her belief in the power of guidance, leadership, and human potential. As night settled over the city, both sisters reflected on the past events. Karen had faced fear and desperation and emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident. Rena had guided, supported, and taught, demonstrating that human intelligence, empathy, and courage could turn challenges into opportunities. The story ended on a hopeful note, emphasizing the HFY message. Humans were capable of incredible strength, growth, and wisdom. Even in moments of panic and uncertainty, careful thought, courage, and responsibility could transform any situation. Karen's journey had proven this truth, and Rena's leadership had reinforced it. As the stars glimmered above the city, Karen felt ready for the future. She understood that challenges would come again, but with the lessons she had learned, she could face them calmly, wisely, and courageously. Human potential, she realized, was limitless when intelligence and responsibility guided every action. Rena returned home one last time that evening, reflecting on the importance of leadership, guidance, and human resilience. She knew that the true measure of strength was not force, but the ability to teach, guide, and inspire others. Through patience, wisdom, and courage, humans could achieve remarkable things. The story concluded with a sense of accomplishment, growth, and hope. Karen had learned to act responsibly, think clearly, and face challenges with courage. Rena had demonstrated leadership, wisdom, and empathy. Together, they had shown that human intelligence and resilience could overcome fear, chaos, and mistakes, embodying the very essence of HFY. Humans rising to the challenge, stronger and wiser.